What's up, YouTube? Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. Wanted to do another update here, a little how'd I do, let's review on a stock that we looked at almost exactly 12 months ago to the day. And this is a company that I basically said, in my opinion, I wouldn't have any urgency. I didn't personally see any urgency to buy the stock. I thought that the bleeding was too much. The revenue was not coming in. We're in wait and see mode, and I personally would remain patient. And I showed the reverse stock split that took place. Let's get into what's going on. Name of the company in question, Biora Therapeutics Inc. Ticker symbol BIOR, listed here on the NASDAQ. Stock is down now, sub 82 cents per share, down 2 2/3% here on the day. The company recently hit new lows of just a touch over 75 cents, hit a low today of 79 cents. And this right here is where we looked at the stock. It was February 20th, I think, of 2023. As you see, the company announced this reverse stock split right after the ball dropped, and that just added to the sell-off acceleration here that we saw basically over the last several years as well. But now it's just getting worse and worse. And we can see back here, January 3rd, 1 for 25 reverse stock split. We all know how we feel about reverse stock splits, and that's why the stock, boom, fell all the way down. So over here, I made the video, the stock was $3.22. And I said, in my opinion, I would not be a buyer. I would remain patient. Someone asked me in the comments section about an update or something, maybe a couple of weeks after they mentioned, where they own it. And I said, in my opinion, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. You can check the comments on that video. I said it like 11 months ago when they asked me, and I said, in my opinion, we will probably continue to sell off, and we will see sub $1. Another person asked me right around this time when the video came out, oh, should I cut? Should I come back to it? Should I add? What would you do? Just looking for your opinion. And I said, in my opinion, I would rather cut it here, take the losses, and potentially look to revisit it down the road. Because I would rather take a big loss today as opposed to, again, off of the reverse stock split. We know that the stocks usually sell off like this and drop down to new lows. So I said, in my opinion here, I would just cut it. And I would liquidate the position, try to regain the profit somewhere else, and maybe come back to this down the road. And as we see, I was correct in that prediction, and the stock really dropped down big from that level. So whoever that was, if you did not sell, obviously you are down more. If you did happen to take my advice, again, it was just my opinion, but if you did happen to take my advice, then obviously you made a good call. But here, what I'm seeing recently here is, there's no money coming in here. You get a couple of thousand here and there. Right? It's basically just the losses. We come down here, look at the numbers. We have a market cap now of about 22 million. The company losing over $9.50 per share here. Absolutely ridiculous. Look at the EPS falling off a cliff there as of last quarter. And I understand they're in this wait and see mode. They're awaiting positive data from their trials. They were awaiting FDA approval. And what did I say 12 months ago? That's fine and dandy. That's a great story. But until that happens, there is no urgency for you to own shares of this company. That's what I said, in my opinion. And obviously, as you see, the stock fell off a cliff and hit lows down here of 75 cents. So zooming in here, we really don't have much numbers to go off of. I'll pull up this article here. They provided their outlook for 24, so we'll take a look at it. But here, in my opinion, you can see we're kind of trending downward here. And here we hit these lows of about 75.5 cents. Excuse me, you can see low here, 76.77, 77.26 cents, right? So technically you could make the argument, oh, they're making higher lows. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of traders kind of forced this double bottom here, right here on Feb 13, right here on Feb 16, and that's why you had the immediate pop in the technicals up to 90. So if you jumped in there at 75, 78 cents, it only hit 77, so you couldn't get into 75. But if you jumped in right there at, 77, 78, 81 cents, boom, you wake up, you're up like a nice 10% in change, it's up at 90 cents, boom, you take the money and run. I promise you. Any trader who jumped in at that point took the money and run. Because obviously, this is a bad sign and is probably going to continue, right? So if you jumped in here and then you had that immediate pop, that's what I mean. Chances are the average trader jumped in, jumped out. But in my opinion, it immediately rejected here, obviously, which means it's not going to hold that value. And then it dropped back down here to the 70-cent mark, excuse me, the 80-cent mark. And you can see top left of the screen, the low, 79 cents today. So comes right back down to sub 80 cents now, just a couple of cents away from that 52-week low. And I can appreciate the fact, again, that these are slightly higher lows, so we don't necessarily have that flat bottom like we would coming across like this on a descending triangle. But in my opinion, I actually think it breaks back down to those lows of about 75 cents and change, and that forms like the triple bottom with our top line coming down, which will probably form, again, I'm predicting, I'm not reacting, which I always say is not the right thing to do, but again, I'm just trying to lay out what could potentially happen and what I feel is going to happen. And in my opinion, I think it comes back down here and kind of forms that bottom, forms that descending triangle, and then breaks down into the 60s, probably, in my opinion. But reverse stock splits, as we're seeing, basically recipe for disaster. That's basically what we're seeing. But I want to pull up this article real quick because, again, I'm not trying to completely bash the company. I was just saying that it needed time, right? And I would rather have it completely drop down to whatever, 20, 30 cents a share, have it completely go in the gutter, have the market cap at, 3 million or whatever. And then when the company releases positive clinical data or the company gets FDA approval, yes, the stock is going to explode, but you don't know where the bottom is, right? And that's why I have all these sayings, and they're popular and they're considered quote unquote rules by a lot of people for certain reasons. And basically, you can't force value. And you're better off, this is why I said, in my opinion, when I first made the video, you're much better off just waiting, just remaining patient, let it drop all the way down to, 30 cents or whatever. Let them get FDA approval. Let the stock explode back up to, $1.50, $2 or whatever. It'll probably have one of those like 700% days like we see with all of these pharmaceutical companies, which is why, in my opinion, I don't play them. But let the data come out. Let the FDA approval happen. That will establish value and urgency. Then if you step in, and again, even if people take profits right away on that news, right? Because again, another rule is buy the rumor, sell the news. So if you're buying and accumulating here at sub $1 and then they get FDA approval or release positive data and the thing shoots up to $4, well, you bought on the rumor, and now that the news came out, you're selling on the news and you just made a couple of 100%. So that's why even if you waited and then hypothetically, let's say the stock explodes from here and it goes back to $3, let's say. By buying at $3, even if it can sell off as people take profits and drop back down to 2.5 to sub 2, first of all, if you want, you can average down if you want. But even if you didn't have the money and you jumped in there at that point at $3, remember, you are now investing into a company that even though you're down immediately, hypothetically, you just got news of positive data. You just heard now that they got FDA approval. So now you have, you see, and again, it's not necessarily a guarantee, but, now you have a solid reason as to why there will be more value in the future. And that's what I always said. I don't care if I don't catch it at the bottom with a specific situation like this, in my opinion. I don't care if I don't time it at the bottom. Because if it pops up to $2, $3 on positive news, then at least I know at $3 that there is more value coming down the road. And now we have more of a solid, stable investment on our hands here. However, the company is supposedly laying out a decent 2024. In 2023, we completed transformation of the company, focusing on strong execution. Okay, we begin 24 in the clinic with our phase 1 study, BT600. Hold on, bear with me. GI-related diseases. Biojet platform continues to exceed its performance targets and shows outstanding promise to solve the challenges of oral delivery of large molecules. Okay. Increased interest in the platform as we generate additional performance data with multiple molecules from collaborators, including AstraZeneca and other large pharma companies. Now, hold on. And we expect to progress these relationships toward broad partnership structures later this year, which could provide non-dilutive funding for further development. So what that translates to me, in my opinion, the way I would interpret that, is that chances are, once they get FDA approval or once this positive data comes out, chances are AstraZeneca or another large pharma company is going to step in, throw some capital towards their way, do a collaboration, jump into this joint venture, and now they're going to have a couple of bucks on hand to continue business operations and business as usual. But more importantly, it says here that this situation, right, could provide non-dilutive funding for further development. Now think, what is dilutive funding? Dilutive funding is something like a stock offering, right? We've seen this time and time again. I've done many updates on stocks announcing new stock offerings, and what that means is now you're bringing more shares to the market, offering more newer shares. So in proportion, the value of existing shares now goes down because the supply has increased, right? So the value drops down in proportion with how much you offered. And of course, it depends what price they offered it. But anyway, long story short, that something like that is dilutive funding. And here it says right here could provide non-dilutive funding for further development. So what that tells me is some sort of positive announcement to do with some sort of injection of capital, some way, some form, could potentially happen later this year. And looking at some of these other studies here, Phase 1 SAD, MAD study data for initial data from the SAD arm expected in 2 to 3 months, followed by MAD results, right? Expected in 2 to 3 months. Now, this was posted mid-January, and now we just passed mid-February, which means the 2-month mark would be mid-March. The 3-month mark would be mid-April. So in my opinion, inside of the next 3 to 4 weeks, if you wanted to potentially take, in my opinion, I would use excess capital, I would use house money, strictly profitable money, or if you have, a sizable account, again, this should be excess capital that is not in the quote-unquote real stable stock investments that you have in your account, right? This should be excess speculative play, just like if you were buying a penny stock, an OTC stock, right? This is the same exact situation, in my opinion, because people forget, just because it's a pharmaceutical company and they're in a trial or whatever, that doesn't mean the data that comes out is going to be positive. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily guaranteed FDA approval. And that's the problem. As soon as these stocks hit the tape, everyone just piles in oh, it's going to be the next Pfizer. It's going to be massive. No, it's going to be the next Pfizer when it begins to grow and do business like Pfizer does. That's a fact, not an opinion, in my opinion. So that's why I said, again, to reiterate, I would be more of the wait and see type. Let these months pass. Go ahead. Let the data come out for this study. Oh, it's positive. The stock popped 300%. It's back up above $2 or whatever. Okay, fine. I'll take a shot here at $2 because at least I know several months down the road, we're, closer to FDA approval and closer to commercialization of our product. But, you get out what you put in, right? That's what that saying, in my opinion, applies so well and so directly to stocks. You get out what you put in. So if this was trending one day, or if it, just randomly popped up on your page, or you got emailed a newsletter, or somebody got this trending on StockTwits or one of them nonsensical websites, see, that's the problem. You saw a quick news article, you saw it was trending, you saw that people were pumped about it, so you took 2, 3, 5 minutes, and then you just jumped in. Well, you get out what you put in. You barely looked at the stock. You didn't understand the whole situation. So now you're down 80, 90+%. Look at the flip side. Look at the situations that I feel we left no stone unturned. And I tried to look at every piece of pertinent data pertaining to that specific stock for you guys over the course of the last 12, 15, 18 straight months. Talking about stocks like Rolls-Royce, Fubo, even something up and coming like a Soundhound, right? All over that thing like white on rice, baby. So now you're seeing the results several months later. You are seeing now, we are getting out what we put in. You understand? And again, I'm not trying to berate you here. I'm not trying to beat you up. Again, like I always say, first of all, if you're involved in this situation, you're down 90+%, don't beat yourself up, because literally every person has been there. Literally every person. What you need to do is use this as a learning experience moving forward. But again, this is interesting. Supposedly, this data coming out in the next 1 to 2 months from this point. So that's why I'm saying, again, in like 3-4 weeks, if you want to potentially speculate and roll the dice, grab some shares down at that bottom probably, inside of the next 3 to 4 weeks on anticipation of this data, okay, fine, that's fine. It's understandable. It's understandable. But just to buy it just because it's a pharma stock and it could be the next Pfizer, that's very silly reasoning in my opinion. And as you see, the stock price is beating everyone up. 56-day GLP tox study with BT600 planned to begin in second half of 24, enabling requirement for larger and longer duration clinical studies. So we could have something potentially happening in the next 4 to 8 weeks with the data coming out here on this study. And they're saying another study planned to begin second half 24, 56-day GLP tox study. So you're going to have 2 months from then. So that means that, of course, if the positive data comes out end of March, end of April for this study, obviously the stock's probably going to have an immediate pop. However, anyone who got in recently, again, is probably going to take profits. But in my opinion, but on the flip side as well, now you have something for the second half of 24, and it's 56 days, which is slightly less than 2 months. So if this begins right around June, middle of June, then that means like the beginning of August. If you were hoping that this is positive and you're looking for another pop, maybe around the beginning of August, if you wanted to jump in and speculate again with a small position, hoping that some positive data comes out. But I don't mind situations like this, but again, and I hate to, beat a dead horse, but this is why I say with situations like this, let me miss the bottom. Let it gain some momentum. I don't have to buy it at the absolute bottom. And if it, drops down to 50 cents, and like I said, boom, all of a sudden positive data, and kapow, the stock jumps up 500%, 600%, back to $3 a share. Yeah, listen, I may have missed out on it sub $1, but again, at least I have very high conviction now after this news that buying at $3 could potentially generate more value for me 1 to 5 years from now. Right? That's the point. That's the point. Just because it's a pharma stock, or just because a new EV stock went public, just because people are talking about it, does not mean it is a buy. And that's the point I've been trying to drive home with so many of these companies. And again, a lot of them were overvalued tech stocks that had massive pumps off the stimulus COVID lockdown money that was sent out and handed to everybody. And sometimes it's a situation like this. Yeah, it's trending up here. It's going to be the next Pfizer. Okay, great. When it starts to do that, then I'll buy the stock. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, over here on the technical side, I see potential descending triangle setting up here. Here on stock charts, we really don't have much. As we can see, the bull dropped, reverse stock split right there January 3rd, and then the stock has been below the mid-Bollinger Band since then. Immediately popped off that double bottom, as we mentioned, to 90 cents, and then immediately gave back that value and rejected and dropped back down to 80 cents and change. The MACD slightly started to tick to the upside there on that news, but in my opinion, it's probably going to cross back to the downside and cross and break lower, which is just going to add more fuel to the fire for the technical pattern, the potential descending triangle setting up, and then you're going to have the MACD crossing to the downside. So boom, they're going to chunk it down potentially even further. RSI down here sub 37 really doesn't mean anything right now, in my opinion. Switching over here to the weekly, RSI 30 and a quarter doesn't really mean anything. The stock's been down for years. MACD flat as a board right there, but yeah, in my opinion, I actually have a feeling it gets worse before it gets better. And I'm just really hoping that anyone who is getting involved in this one, again, like I said, hopefully it's excess capital, excess funds that you can speculate with. And if it wasn't, like I said, not necessarily here to beat you up, but if it was relevant capital and now you're down big and you're very upset, again, we live to fight another day. Use this as a learning experience and tell yourself, make rules for yourself. This is what I mean when I say stay disciplined. Because if you're in something like this and you're down 90+%, you should now be writing down rules and implementing them day by day now for the future moving forward. I'm never going to buy, some random speculative pharmaceutical stock until positive data comes out and we actually see value. I'm not just going to jump into some tech IPO just because they just went public, because 9 out of 10 companies, in my opinion, are severely overvalued out of the gate. And essentially any company you look at came out of the gate and went down before it started to actually gain value and climb over time. So this is why I always say remain patient, look for fair value, look for undervalued situations. You work hard for your money. You work hard for your money, and it's extremely stressful. So for you to just say, screw it, I need action today, I'm buying this. Shame on you. If you have the excess capital, obviously that doesn't apply to you, you know that. But all you guys out there grinding, and girls, everyone out there grinding for your income, if you're just throwing it into these situations blindly, like I said earlier, you're getting out what you put in. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky and volatile and very uncertain. I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.